Mayor Walsh is trying to strike a balance between the city's economic gains and the market forces driving displacement. That's the principle around his Office of Housing Stability and a whole package of bills filed this year at the State House. To talk about the package is our guest, the head of the office and deputy director in the Department of Neighborhood Development, Lydia Edwards. Thank you very much for being with us, Lydia.
Thank you again for having us.
I know you talked about stabilizing housing not too long ago on the show, but one of the things that's certainly crucial is homelessness, how the city can prevent that, and this package does include some new help.
It does, and again, tonight we're doing our homeless census, which is something we've committed to do on an annual basis. So everyone in the city, or a good chunk of us, are going out there to really get to know what our numbers are. But with regards to this packet, this entire packet, we feel together is really pushing for more home ownership and ensuring that people can stay in their homes with lower rents. And both of those opportunities are assuring stabilization, but also preventing people from being homeless.
Now, I know that when some property owners hear about this, they might get nervous and say, you know, you're helping the tenants, but, you know, where's the equality here? What about the, you know, some of the owners? They're not always necessarily all that wealthy either.
Well, I want people to pull back and realize that this packet is just what it is. It's really trying to hit the issue of displacement on several different facets, right? We have a zoning ordinance that makes the actual size of the building the trigger for the inclusionary development. We have a landlord tax credit that actually is trying to encourage or benefit landlords who are keeping their rents below market with a $1,500 tax credit per unit. Then we're also looking at right to counsel for tenants. Only 7% actually go to court with legal help, but 80% of landlords do, right? Then we're looking at pathways to ownership with the right of first refusal. So you see there's a balancing act and looking at all different aspects and perspectives to prevent displacement.
Talk
about go ahead.
I'm sorry. Talk about the possible attraction of the credit, because sometimes you might have maybe a new owner of a property and you've got a tenant who's been there a long time, good tenant maybe, but the rents were a lot lower, and now that the values have shot way up, you get a difficult situation.
You do, and you have rising property taxes, and you have an opportunity for some landlords to what they feel is to cash out. And at the same time, many landlords are torn. They have long-term tenants who've been paying below market rents. And so what's the incentive to keep those rents low beyond just the personal relationship? And that's what this is trying to balance. We understand the pressures that small landlords are under, and that's why we think this is an incentive to help them.
And one thing we should make clear, and I think we've done this before, this is not about the owner-occupants of a three-decker. We're talking about people who are investor owners, and probably more than 3 units, certainly, right?
Oh, this is with regards to the right of first refusal? Yes, that is exactly that. So we wanted to be clear that when it comes to assuring that tenants are at the table at the time of foreclosure, at the table at the time of short sale, that only applies to investor-owned properties, right? The properties where people are living in them and struggling to keep their homes and keep them out of foreclosure, we don't want the tenants and the owner actually fighting over the house. This is in a case where there's several arm's length distance between the owner and the tenants. And we just want to make sure that the tenants have an opportunity to either purchase that house or to assign that right to a CDC, a nonprofit, or they can pick a developer.
Talk about the process of getting to this Stabilization Act, because I know there are a lot of pushing and pushing back on different sides, but you finally got something passed, but you got to sell this at the State House now.
Yeah, so the whole package, yes, is something that we have to sell. And it's true, it was a process that involved a lot of landlords, it involved a lot of developers, it involved a lot of tenants, but all of them had different perspectives. You know, how do we get them all to the table? Because each one of them has a role to play in preventing displacement. And actually, each one of them is genuinely concerned about displacement, but they wanted to make sure that their voices were heard. And I think this packet really reflects that. We go from zoning to right to counsel to tax credits for landlords. I think we really have a comprehensive list that is really inclusive of everyone in the community.
Explain a little bit more about the zoning and how that triggers money for affordable housing.
Well, right now, when you're building in Boston, and if you build over a certain or height or building, I guess, if you will, there's 13% that is supposed to be affordable, and that could be on-site, off-site, and that's usually through variance that we ultimately bring that about. And this just streamlines it. So based on the height of the building, it'll automatically trigger that 13% inclusionary development. So we're just trying to actually make it smoother and faster to actually build more affordable units.
Now, I know there are always going to be some cases when, because of the market, a tenant family is just going to have to move out. But talk about the importance of having more time to do that, because I guess, to me, it sounds like it could make the difference between homelessness and having a place to live, too.
Absolutely. And I think one of the services now that I'd like to plug is at the Office of Housing Stability is mediation. We're offering free mediation for folks who are in that situation and looking at how they're able to deal with this rent increase, or if they cannot, how they can get the time they need in order to leave and find another place. And timing is everything, and we try to direct all of our services as upstream as possible to start those conversations between the landlords and the tenants to make sure that they are part of designing a solution that both of them can live with. And you can't really do that in court. You can't really do that sometimes when you filed and you're sitting there in an adversarial position. But having the time to sit down with the city, offering some resources, and both sides genuinely coming there looking for a solution, we're very confident that we can do that.
Well, finally, Lydia, we should mention that if people want to find out more information either about the package or help with a housing dilemma, is there a way they can find you?
Yes, there's our website. I believe it's boston.gov/housing/office housing stability.
All right. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Up ahead, Bruins Old Timers helping young people in Dorchester.